How you doing, guys? We're back for another whiskey review. This is one I've wanted to do for a while. It's one of those things I've been eyeing on the shelf for quite a bit, and I finally got around to picking it up. Today it was a decision either to pick this up or Aberlour 16. Aberlour 16 was quite a bit more expensive, so I decided to go with this instead. Um, this being 40 Creek Copper Pot Reserve. All right. Most people will be familiar with 40 Creek Standard expression, which is their barrel select. This is a variation in the barrel select. We'll read from the back of the bottle here first, and then I'll go into a little bit more explanation. 40 Creek Copper Pot Whiskey is made by renowned whiskey maker John Hall, who runs 40 Creek and used to be in the wine business, so he has some knowledge of barrels, and we'll get back to that here in a minute. Using a selection of rye, corn, and barley grains, Hall distills each grain separately in a traditional copper pot still to create a spirit that is bold and complex. It goes on to talk about the aging and how the alcohol in this is 43% alcohol by volume, so 86 proof, a little bit bigger than the standard 40 proof of their expression, so you're going to get a little bit more flavor. Also, the whiskeys in this are matured a bit longer. The process 40 Creek uses, not too dissimilar from the process most Canadian distilleries use to an extent, is that Canadian whiskeys, of course, are not blended together with different grains. They're not blended together. They take the grains separately, distill them into separate spirits, then they blend those spirits together and mature them. In this case, you've had three different whiskeys. Well, you can't really call them whiskeys, depending on how old they've been aged, but they have a rye. They have a, what was it? A rye. Man, I'm just blanking here. Fuck. Rye, corn, and barley. Those are the three different types, okay? So your rye whiskey, that's traditionally a Canadian thing, also found in a lot of bourbons. Corn is straight up what you associate with bourbon whiskeys. And then barley, given enough maturation, is what you would associate with Scotch whiskeys. So those three are distilled, aged for a while. Now, each one of these is aged in a different type of white American oak. Actually, I don't think it's white American oak. I'm pretty sure the oak they use is actually Canadian white oak, which is basically white American oak, but transplanted to Canada, it grows in a different way because of the climate difference. So, actually, they tend to grow with tighter grain. Holds in a lot more flavors and stuff that can be extracted from the wood. The process they used to dry the wood is more traditional in this case. They basically left the wood out to dry naturally instead of putting it in a kiln. A kiln will kill a lot of the microorganisms or whatever inside the wood that help get rid of those aggressive tannins. So basically what you're getting is a bit of a smoother, more easy to drink whiskey without so much wood influence interfering with the whiskeys themselves. And I can't quite remember which barrel was used for which whiskey. I know one barrel was highly charred, one was just slightly toasted, and I'm pretty sure one was just sort of like neutral, like fresh. And then, of course, they're all blended together, and they're all aged in Kentucky bourbon barrels for some period of time. I don't know how old these whiskeys are, actually. I'm assuming it's somewhere between 6 to 8 years, something along those lines. No age statement on the actual whiskey. So, enough blathering about it. Let's get right to it and see what we think. Alright, there we go. I do not believe they use caramel coloring. It is fairly dark, but I don't think 40 Creek does that. I'm pretty sure they don't. They're sort of like a smaller, more independent, artisanal kind of whiskey maker here in Canada. They're not churned out of that big production facility that most of the whiskeys in Canada are made from. These guys are from Where the hell are they from? Grimsby, Ontario. All right, so but it's a sort of a coppery amber sort of smell. Look, I'm really off my game tonight, I tell you. Looks very nice legs on the sides here. Nice little beading, thick, viscous legs coming down. Looks very nice. So we'll go right to the smell. Thing you'll notice right away is there's a bit of a spiciness to it. The rye actually does come out quite a bit. I don't know how much percentage of rye whiskey is in this, but you definitely get a lot more rye than you'll get on a lot of Canadian whiskeys these days. A nice spicy rye, a little bit of gingery spice there, maybe a little bit of cinnamon. You get a little bit of the wood. It's not particularly big or aggressive. You get a lot of sort of a toffee-ish sort of smell. Maybe even some like burnt sugar. Right off the bat, you can tell it's a bit different than your standard Canadian whiskey. A lot of Canadian whiskeys, even the really good ones, tend to have like a pronounced like butterscotch sort of smell. That's not really in this. I mean, there's a little component there, but there's a lot more going on in the nose here. It's something more. It sort of reminds me of Alberta Premium, and where a lot of their stuff is closer to bourbons than it is traditional Canadian whiskey in some respects. What people think of traditional Canadian whiskeys these days, the standard stuff on the market, anyway. So we're going right to the taste now. Cheers. Good medium body to it. Nice little bit of viscosity in it. Thing you'll notice right off the bat, very very spicy, but not in a way where you're necessarily tasting all the spices. It's much more just a spice burn on the sides of the tongue, so a little bit in the back of the mouth. Slightly gingery, and then of course just a pronounced sort of rye character. It's very very nice. You're getting a little bit of that sort of toffee that was coming out in the smell. A nice dry nuttiness as well. It's like drying out my tongue quite a bit. This is like unsalted mixed nuts with the skin still on them. It's got sort of that dry, nutty character, much more so than a woody character, and that really sort of flows right into the finish. It's also got chocolate, slightly caramelly undertones as well. Adding water to this will bring out I find anyway, will bring out the more sort of chocolatey kind of taste, and it's sort of like a bittersweet ranging to baker's chocolate sort of chocolate note. There's even a sort of a rummy character to this in a way. There's definitely like a sort of a dark fruit note there. It's not particularly pronounced, but it's there. Even finishes with I dare say taking a note from Terry Kay from Beer Goggles Review, Demerara sugar kind of note there, sort of a nice dark brown sugar sort of note, molasses sort of thing. I mean, this is really nice, and the spice is lingering as well in the finish, like that sort of spicy, a little bit of a spicy burn. I don't want to say burn, but it's, you notice it. It's it's popping in your mouth. It's really really nice. And the longer you let this one sit in the glass, the better it comes out. Honestly, I suggest letting it sit for 5 or 10 minutes first before you really even get into it. You'll take the spice a lot easier going down. Like initially, if you just open this up fresh and drink it with the spiciness really attacking right off the bat, you could almost mistake that for alcohol burn, but as it stands, there actually is no real alcohol burn at all that I could detect. Not even really all that much alcohol warmth going down. 43%, not necessarily that big. So, but that's really, really good stuff. 40 Creek does really good stuff, I must say. If you follow Ralphie stuff, and you should if you like whiskey reviews, because he's the basically the man as far as whiskey reviews go on YouTube. He actually did a series on Canadian whiskeys. He was down for Canadian whiskey event of some sort, and he interviewed John Hall, who from 40 Creek, and he also reviewed this whiskey. And he quite liked it too. I think he gave it an 83 out of 100 or whatever. But which is a pretty good mark. I'm gonna rate a little higher than I think Ralphie did. I really like this stuff. It's incredibly drinkable. Just really good stuff. And it's not even necessarily the sort of whiskey I usually enjoy. I'm usually much more into the big peaty scotches and stuff. But I find this really good, and anything that's different from just the standard everyday Canadian whiskeys that you'll find on the market is a-okay with me. And it's super affordable, $30 for 750 milliliter bottle, 70 centiliters in Europe or whatever. That's a steal. That is a great deal. I imagine it's probably even a bit cheaper outside of Canada. If you can find it outside of Canada, I think it's a little hard to find outside of Canada. But yeah, if you're in Canada and you can get it, pick it up. It's definitely worth throwing the $30 down for. Really enjoy this stuff. So I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go A- on this. I really enjoy it. It's perhaps a little bit too young. It could probably use maybe a few more years, honestly. I'd really like to see where it would go if it was aged for a few more years. But all that being said, it's really awesome. Great job by 40 Creek. And yeah, A-. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later. Sorry for going so long on this one, but I wanted to get a bunch of information out. And you're not necessarily always good at compartmentalizing things and putting them out there in correct order. So, but if you've watched me for long enough now, you probably already know that. See you guys later. Bye bye.